welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined every Monday and Wednesday by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. And today, we're talking a little bit of Mason Rudolph and how he no longer likes the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though a week ago he was pretty open to it. Cam Sutton, reportedly, gone. Apparently, everybody thinks he's going to sign elsewhere. On top of that, we are headed to the NFL Combine, so we're going to talk about a little throwback. A little 1 year ago today, everybody talked about Malik Willis and how Malik Willis was the Steelers guy. Turned out to be Kenny Pickett. Who is this year's Malik Willis for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and who is this year's Kenny Pickett? Find all that and more, All Steelers Talk. But first, it is a beautiful day outside. It's supposed to start raining the second we leave and rain the entire way to Indianapolis, which is, expected. That's what we do here. How are you feeling, my friend? How excited are you to get to Indy?
Good. I'm feeling really excited. I'm mentally preparing to sleep in my own bed for approximately one night over the next couple of weeks as we go from Indianapolis NFL Combine, and then a couple days after I turn around and I head to the ACC tournament, ACC men's basketball tournament in Greensboro. So I'm on the road a lot this week, but I'm really excited. It's I'm a young person. I haven't traveled a lot for work in my career, so this is exciting. This is a really exciting time.
Yeah, the Combine is, the Senior Bowl is cool, but like I said, I kind of described it as it's a frat house. It's just a bunch of, anybody could go down to the Senior Bowl. It doesn't take much to get a credential down there. The NFL Combine is where it's at. Like, you're walking in, you're going to see people from all different media outlets, people at Radio Row's right there. It's your first experience with Radio Row. The NFL Combine is a good time. I've never been to the ACC tournament, would like to go to the ACC tournament at some point in my career. And then Pitt's headed to the NCAA tournament, unless they totally bomb in the next week. So it's going to be an exciting month for Steven Thompson here, boys. But don't worry, we're not going to let him walk away from the pod. We'll keep him here so we can bust him. All right, let's talk Mason Rudolph. A week ago, not even, Tim Benz of Trib Live, and I totally respect Tim Benz. I totally believe whatever he reports most of the time. Said that Mason Rudolph is quote unquote open to return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now it's come out from Mark Caboli of The Athletic that no, he is not open to come back to the Pittsburgh Steelers unless he gets no other offers anywhere else. I think that second one is a little bit more believable, but when you heard Caboli, when you heard Tim Benz, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm more inclined to believe that Mason would want out. Doesn't seem like there's a future for him. He's better than I think where he's at right now. I think he can earn a backup spot somewhere else. And just, we've talked about it before, but given the way the Steelers have kind of treated him this year and handled the kind of faux quarterback competition this year, signing Mason Rudolph and signing Mitch Trubisky and drafting another rookie quarterback, there's just really no future for him. Doesn't make sense for him to stay. I'm more inclined to believe that he wants out, and Godspeed to him, because I think he deserves a shot somewhere else.
Yeah, I think the final straw had to be when they refused to even try to trade him, when everybody and their mother needed a quarterback at the trade deadline, and they were just like, nah, we're just going to let him sit here and be inactive every week. No big deal for us. I agree. I found it very hard to believe. Even reading Tim Benz's report, it gave me the feel of, yeah, Mason's open to returning if the only team that offers him a contract is the USFL. At that moment, I'll come back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But there's really nothing. There's no good relationship here. It doesn't feel like anybody except for Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky and Deontay Johnson, who's been an advocate for him for 2 years now, enjoy Mason Rudolph's presence in the locker room. Like, the coaches don't seem to be on his side whatsoever. From day one, he's been shunned from the city of Pittsburgh. It started off with Ben Roethlisberger saying, nah, I don't want to teach this guy anything. And then turning into, oh, you're getting benched for Duck Hodges, and now a fake quarterback competition this past year twice, because they did it to him when Kenny went down with a concussion as well. Got to get out of here. I think just for your mental health, get out of here. Even if you are a third-string quarterback somewhere else, go be a third-string quarterback somewhere else. Don't be a third-string quarterback in Pittsburgh. It's not worth it. Now for the Steelers, I think it screws them because I think that was the easiest decision you could make is to get rid of Mitch Trubisky and bring back Mason Rudolph. Brings that comfortability back with you for half the cost. Now they're sitting here like, well, it's got to be Mitch now. We can't get rid of Mitch Trubisky, even though we're going to spend starting quarterback money, veteran quarterback money on a guy that's not going to play a snap this season. Bad move for the Steelers, I think, there, but good for Mason Rudolph. Do you think he gets an actual shot to compete for a starting job this year, or do you think he's just going to head somewhere where maybe somebody gets hurt?
Probably not. He's probably a career backup, which there's nothing wrong with that. He'll make a lot of money and have a long career doing that, and good for him. But yeah, no, I can't think of a situation where someone both needs a quarterback and Mason Rudolph is better than who they already have.
Do you think that there's a shot that he pulls an AJ McCarron and that the XFL is so good that next spring he heads to the XFL?
I don't know. I mean, the XFL has been an entertaining product so far, but I don't know
I've enjoyed it.
I don't know about the quality of the league quite yet.
I don't know about the quality, but I think AJ McCarron could be a trailblazer of guys who probably could start in the NFL because like AJ McCarron has never played bad.
He started a playoff game, didn't he?
For the Bengals. Yeah. Like he's never been a bad quarterback. He's a career backup. Mason Rudolph and him kind of give me the similar vibe. I think if Mason went to the XFL or the USFL, he'd be the MVP season after season after season. Mm-hmm. Are you willing to take that pay cut? I don't know. But if you realize this season that you're not getting a starting job anywhere, and chances are you're never going to get a starting job anywhere, maybe head to the XFL and say, hey, I'm going to go play for the Rock and make, I don't know what they make in the XFL. Can't be a lot of money. A couple $100,000.
No, it can't be more than that. Yeah.
No. And I'm saying like top tier, like your best quarterback. AJ McCarron's probably making more money than anybody in that league. And I would say at most he's probably making $300,000, which, I mean, if you're Mason Rudolph and you just made what, $10 million,
why not
go sign one more deal for $5 million, get pocket $15 million and go play in the XFL for 2 years and then come back and do it again. I mean, you're 27 years old.
Right. Yeah. And he's a white quarterback. Like he will find his way back to the NFL if he wants to. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like there's no way if Geno Smith hung around this long and I get that Geno Smith was good, but he was really bad before this past year.
Right.
If you're Mason Rudolph is way better right now than Geno Smith was before this season. So you want to come back, you can come back. AJ McCarron's going to get job offers this summer. It'll work out. I think Mason Rudolph might be the second trailblazer to make the XFL actually last for the Rock, which they are. Shout out to Hines Ward, who got his first win on Saturday, 31-something. It was good to see. I didn't like how it ended the first game. That was the whole like not an onside kick thing. Wasn't a fan of it, but it was good to see him get a W for Steelers Nation over here. All right, second thing I want to talk about is Cam Sutton. We have talked repeatedly about how Cam Sutton is expected to come back to the Steelers. I still believe that Cam Sutton is expected to come back to the Steelers, but now everybody and their mother's talking about how Cam Sutton is not going to come back to the Steelers. PFF put it out there that they predicted that he signs with the Minnesota Vikings. ESPN put it out there that they predict that he signs with the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe Brian Flores just has this deep connection with Cam Sutton, and he's going to look at that defense as a better opportunity than this one. I don't know, but do you take it with any relevance and look at it and say, maybe the Steelers are about to lose Cam Sutton?
Yeah, I'm much more nervous now than I, was last week or even a few days ago. I do not think that the Steelers are going to let him go. No. I think they're going to lock him down because if for no other reason than they need him. Like, I don't know. We've talked about this over and over, like you said, but they can't afford to let him go. Like this is not something I think that they can survive. It's not something they can let happen this offseason and still expect to be a competitive team next year. Yeah. Like it handicaps your entire draft strategy or your offseason plan for free agency. Like I don't understand why this would be the moment where you would let yourself get outbid for a guy like Cam Sutton. Because you've also talked about how it's not a lot of money, especially for the value you're getting back.
Yeah, it's really not. And I think that's like we talked about it last week, how maybe that's a worry if you let Cam Sutton hit free agency and somebody offers him a crazy contract like this, like the Bengals did for Mike Hilton. But what's a crazy contract for Cam Sutton? Is somebody going to offer him $15 million? Because if they are, well, then good for him. You know, like I'm happy for Cam Sutton. I'd want him to make as much money as humanly possible. And if somebody's going to offer him $12 to $15 million to go play cornerback for them, do I think it's the right move for that organization? No. Do I think it's the right move for Cam Sutton? Of course. Go take your money. Like, go take your money, be a starting cornerback on a good team, because it's not like the Steelers are the top tier NFL organization. It's not like you come back here and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to compete for a Super Bowl every single season. Chances are you might not even make the playoffs this year, and that could be the expectation for Pittsburgh. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that somebody's going to toss that type of money at him. If they do, good for him. If not, and the Steelers lose him for, somebody offers him $9 million and they're like, well, we're not budging from $8 million. Well, at that moment, the Steelers deserve to lose him. But do I think that's going to happen? No, I would expect Cam, like the drive today. I would look for a moment like that when we are both very busy and life is very inconvenient for it to happen, for the Steelers to say, we have re-signed Cam Sutton to a 3-year contract extension worth X amount of money. Because I don't think they're going to hit free agency.
Right. It's going to happen, and it's going to be at the most inconvenient time as possible for all of us. So.
Yes, that's what the Steelers do.
Right. I want to move on to a different part of the offseason. Instead of free agency, let's talk about the draft. You released your first mock draft, right?
Yes, mock draft 1.0.
Right. So why don't you take us through your mock draft and who you have the Steelers taking?
Yeah. Breaking news. Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard and look. Now, you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match the carpets by going to manscaped.com and using our code STEELERS20 for 20% off and free shipping. Everybody knows I rock the beard all year long, unless it's a mustache. And even when it is a mustache, I'm using Manscaped because it's the best beard products I have ever put my hands on. Very excited about it. It's time to tame your mane. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a juggernaut of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths all in one guard. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. That's right. Face doesn't need to be hard. Get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower to avoid all that hair in the sink. The titanium-coated T-blade is tough on hair, but smooth on your face, leading to a single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. They have created 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. First, there is the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember that all your hair is different. Your beard hair is more coarse and easier to damage than the hair on your head. That's why this kit has made shampoo and conditioner specifically designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, replace natural oils, and promote beard health. Next, the kit has Manscaped's beard oil, an essential piece to your main facial accessory. No one wants a guy whose beard is brittle and dry. The oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin underneath, while adding a little shimmer and shine, making you look extra fine. Cap off the look with a Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look to attract any fellows or dames. The Pro Beard Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, a comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So, get 20% off and free shipping with our code STEELERS20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and all you have to do is use our code STEELERS20. Manscaped Beard Hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. Yeah, so I think I jumped on board. Maybe it was last draft here. I don't know. Our last episode here, but the Brian Branch train is in full movement and it's not going anywhere. I am fully convinced that if Brian Branch is sitting there at 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers are just going to look at this guy and say, well, he is by far the best player on the draft board. That being said, I don't think Joey Porter Jr. makes it to 17. Daniel Jeremiah in his press conference the other day made it sound very slim that the Steelers will have an opportunity to sign Ringo or draft Ringo, Gonzalez, Witherspoon, or Joey Porter Jr. He thinks that all those guys will be gone by 17. He also said, hey, if one of them's there, you run it to the podium. I still think I'm maybe considering Brian Branch over both of them. I think he fits perfectly in this defense. I have heard rumbles that's the secondary is significantly higher than any other position for the Steelers this offseason, that they are prioritizing that with a serious emphasis. Brian Branch could play safety, the third safety if you want. Box safety could replace Terrell Edmonds, easy. He plays slot, beautiful for when Cam Sutton has to play on the outside. He plays nickelback, which is what the Steelers have looked for 2 seasons now, and Arthur Millette is just not that guy. I think he's the perfect blend for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's versatile, and he's a superstar, and when I make t-shirts and it's a big branch shaped as a train, it's going to be even better because I think that guy's a stud, and the only reason that he'll slide is because he's a safety, and, the NFL draft doesn't really like safeties, but I think it's such an easy move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then they come back in the second round. So I titled this, the Steelers land 4 starters because Daniel Jeremiah said that he believes the Steelers could land 4 starters in their first 4 picks. And I think that they could. I don't know if all 4 of them will start, but I think all 4 will be starting quality players who play good chunks of reps. The second pick, technically round 2, but it's the 32nd pick in the draft. I have Osiris Torrance out of Florida. I think a lot of people are talking about left tackle and replacing Dan Moore, and that's got to be the biggest need. I think if the Steelers' eyes, they feel a lot more comfortable leaving Dan Moore out there than Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson is going to play on the last year of his rookie contract. There's no way he's getting another deal after this season unless he has some wild year, but I just don't see that happening. You replace left guard before you replace left tackle because you have more time and Dan Moore can still develop, whereas you kind of know what you got out of Kevin Dotson at this point. I think they both had terrible years, so it's not like, one's going to be better than the other one. I think replacing either of them works for the Steelers. I still think Kevin Dotson's going to walk into the offseason with an upper hand in the starting competition, but I wouldn't be surprised if Osiris Torrance takes that role by August. Second round pick 49. I have Siaki Ika. I hope that I said that right, out of Baylor. My thing here is simple. People are talking about edge rusher. People are talking about inside linebacker. People are talking about cornerback. The Steelers haven't had a nose tackle in like 3 years. Everybody's talking about going to sign Javon Hargrave for $20 million. That's not going to happen. What you could do if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers is draft a big man in the second round. Ika, I believe it's Ika, right? Mm-hmm. Fits that nose, that A-gap perfectly. He's a run stuffer. He's a big body. You allow him to play nose this season and be your true-blooded nose tackle with Cam and Larry Ogunjobi while DeMarvin Leal develops as a defensive end. And then if Cam retires after this season, you can move Ika to the right to play for Cam. Or if, a couple years down the road, you draft another guy to develop. I don't know, but I think he's the building block for that defensive line that you have to add if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and being there at 49, I think is very, very doable for the Steelers. I'll go through 2 more here before we start talking about it. Round 3 is Kai Blue Kelly out of Stanford. I would have liked Julius Brents a lot better for the Steelers, but I don't think he's going to slide that far. I think he'll move up as the draft stock or as the combine goes through and his draft stock improves. Whereas I think Kelly will kind of sit there and be that 3rd round pick at 80. He's not a starter. He's not going to walk in here and beat out Levi Wallace on the outside or Cam Sutton. But what he is when the Steelers run those 3 safety sets and Brian Branch drops back with Terrell Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Sutton can move inside and play the slot or play the nickel. And then Kelly and Levi Wallace could play on the outside. He's that third corner. That third corner is very important to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that fills a role. He showed a lot of upside in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. And on top of that, Mike Tomlin coached his dad at Tampa Bay. So there's a blood connection there, or there's a family connection there. I just think that he's good enough where he's like that second tier of cornerback in this draft, but he's high enough in that second tier that the Steelers will be like, okay, at 80, we feel very good about that. And then one more before the 2 7th-round picks, which are, I have an edge rusher out of Michigan, Iabi Oki, and Michael Wilson, a wide receiver out of Stanford with the last pick, which I think is a big because, he's dealt with injuries every single season, so you don't know what you're going to get out of that guy. But round 4, and shout out to Twitter because they were going at me yesterday trying to guess the Pitt player that would come to the Steelers this draft. I have Carter Warren, left tackle out of Pitt. I think he's going to slide because of his injury. He's working at the combine, right? He said that he is going to do drills at the combine, I believe.
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll bump his stock a little bit, but he's still going to fall because you didn't get that second half. He's from Pitt. Pitt had a great year, but he's an offensive lineman, and he's not the offensive lineman. That 4th-round pick, I think the Steelers could find him there. They'll obviously ask Kenny Pickett. He's going to have nothing but rave reviews. You bring in a left tackle because you still need depth at left tackle because Trent Scott is not the answer as your backup tackle. I think Carter Warren could bring some youth and some, long-term upside. You got to remember, Chuks Okorafor was a 3rd-round pick. So Kevin Dotson was a 4th-round pick. So these guys could develop into something, and I think Carter Warren comes in here with Dan Moore Jr., 4th-round pick, with no expectations to start, but can develop, and I think that helps because he is dealing with an injury or recovering from an injury, and it kind of takes all that pressure away.
Yeah, I like this draft. I think my 2 favorite picks were Torrance and Ika in round 2. Like those, I remember Ika was a guy like people were talking about first round, like earlier in the process. Torrance we saw him down in Mobile. He's a mauler. Branch is interesting. It seemed like he came on really quickly, and really fast, and kind of came out of nowhere. When you first brought him up, I wasn't really expecting him. Yeah, so that's an interesting, way to go in the first round to me.
Yeah, I think that Branch is a guy that isn't going to get talked about with the Steelers a lot, but he's a stud. And, we're going to get into like sleepers here in a moment. But I think he's a guy that in that first round, people are going to overlook because he played on a real dominant defense, but like he's not, you know what I mean? Like Minkah Fitzpatrick had noise. Derwin James had noise. These guys coming into the NFL like that were those top 10 picks or near the top 10. There was so much noise around these guys because the cornerback class is so good this year. I think that's what's getting the noise. And then Brian Branch is really like that only safety in the first round where you're like, okay, he's good, but like, is he Christian Gonzalez? I think he is Christian Gonzalez. I think he plays safety. And that's the other thing is, Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick, they could play center field. Like they could be a ball hawk. They could be the middle of the field. Brian Branch has never played that position. He's never played the like sky hawk center fielder for Alabama. He was more of a box safety slot guy. Daxton Hill is the perfect example of him. I thought Daxton Hill was a 1st-round talent who went in the 2nd round. I think that Brian Branch is going to be a 1st-round talent who goes, mid to late in the 1st round. And I just think that if he's sitting there and nobody else is sitting there, if one of the corners are sitting there, I could see the Steelers drafting him. If Paris Johnson slides, I could see them drafting him. But if nobody else slides, I think that the Steelers go up and get a safety.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point about the corners because after like Witherspoon, Gonzalez, and Porter, I think those are the kind of consensus top 3 guys. Like there's a significant step down from there.
Yeah, Ringo too. Ringo too.
Oh yeah, Ringo.
He gets kind of lost in this. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
But there is, it's like that second gap of guys like Brent's, Clark Phillips, who's real short, and I think that the combine's actually going to hurt him. Kai Blue Kelly, and I think that second group is still starting quality guys. But yeah, like the top of this draft in cornerback is like, it's usually you have like a Jalen Ramsey or whoever. This year it's like 4 Jalen Ramseys, and you're like, okay, well that's awesome. So everybody else is kind of getting overpassed. And I think that's going to help guys like Osiris Torres fall for the Steelers because people are going to be like, okay, well there's so many defensive stars in this draft. Why would I draft a mid-tier offensive lineman that might not even be able to come in here and start week 1 it's a Creed Humphrey thing where Creed Humphrey shouldn't have fell. And I think the Steelers will see that. They'll see a guard and they'll say, oh, we're drafting him. No doubt. Yeah. So that's my draft. Feel good about it. We'll have another one after the combine. I don't think anything really happens until the combine. You hear more noise at the combine. You actually get to meet with scouts and, you kind of get some real sources. Right now, it's just the deepest I got out of anybody, because I think this is the deepest that the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now, is the secondary is a high priority, which I think we knew. I think it was kind of put like, oh, it's going to be more of a priority than people think. But besides that, noise is small because the Steelers are still, this is where things happen. Free agency, the whole nine. The NFL knows exactly what's going to happen at the end of the combine in every direction. Free agency, the NFL draft, contracts are get negotiated out here, whether they are or not. It's, everything happens at the combine. So we'll have more noise afterwards. Speaking of the combine, last thing I want to talk about before we head out here. Like I said, last year it was Malik Willis. Nobody wanted to talk about Kenny Pickett. Nobody wanted to talk about Desmond Ridder. Nobody cared about anybody else. Sam Howell, Matt Corral, nobody cared. It was Malik Willis. I had the Steelers draft Malik Willis at whatever pick it was for like a month, written, ready to go, because I knew it was going to happen. Didn't happen. It was Kenny Pickett. And then as soon as they drafted him, they made it very clear, we got you. We got you. Nobody saw it coming. We saw it coming. This year, I think that people are going to blow smoke in a couple of ways, and that the Steelers are just kind of going to let it happen and, laugh it out and let people believe what they want to believe. I want you to give me some sleepers, but first, I'm going to give a couple of names that I think are those Malik Willises, those guys that there's no chance the Steelers are going to draft, but we're going to keep talking about them because they're clearly, big names and people want them to be drafted. I have two big ones, very easy calls. The first one is Jordan Addison. There is no chance Jordan Addison's coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could talk about slot wide receiver all you want. You could talk about Kenny Pickett and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and Tua and Jalen Waddle or whatever. The Steelers want George Pickens to be Kenny Pickett's Jamar Chase or Tua's Jalen Waddle. That's what they want to happen. And then they want Deontay Johnson to be that second guy, that T. Higgins, that whoever. And they already have that in place. Calvin Austin hopefully comes in here. I think that at some point they do add another wide receiver. But Art Rooney II made it very clear to me when I asked if you're going to build around Kenny Pickett. And he said, well, I kind of like the pieces in place. If you weren't that happy with the pieces in place, if you thought you needed another star, you would say that. You wouldn't say, no, we kind of like Steven Sims. I think the Steelers are set at wide receiver, at least, big name wise, and they're not going to waste the 17th pick in the draft on him. So I would say Jordan Addison, scratch him now because he's not coming to Pittsburgh. Second name for you is Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. People want to talk about this guy all day long. Well, he's so big. He's going to be there at 17. Maybe he'll be there at 32. The Steelers can't pass up on this guy. He's a right tackle, and he doesn't play left tackle. And when you talk to him, he said, yeah, I could make the transition to left tackle, but it does take an adjustment. It takes it's not easy to make the jump from the right side to the left side. And the Steelers are going to draft somebody who might not be able to make the jump to the left side. That's what they did with Dan Moore. Dan Moore was a right tackle. They made him a left tackle. He's not working out at left tackle. They're not going to do it again. If there's a left tackle there, if there's a DeJuan Jones, if there's a Broderick, I think Jones as well, Anton Harris is there. Left tackles, you draft them. Darnell Wright, not happening. Remove his name from your list. He is not even going to be on the Steelers' big board. I promise you. Those two names, they're not coming to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Wright, I think we've talked about this before, but Wright just doesn't fit into what they need. He's a good player, but just not what they need. And the same thing with Addison. Don't overthink it. You don't need a receiver right now. I know he's a flashy name. He'd be a sexy pick for sure, but not nearly as valuable as what else you could get. I feel like Joey Porter is in kind of the same category of player. Guys,
if he's the only one there, I think that changes. But if there's number of cornerbacks there, yeah, you're right.
Right. Like I just don't see it happening at all. Like it's
Mhm.
just he's too good and he's gonna get picked too early.
Yeah, I could see an instance where all 4 cornerbacks are gone by like 13, and you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all right, well, what do you do now? It's like, well,
Right.
they knew this was going to happen. Like they didn't,
Mhm.
the way the Steelers go about it is they do not draft themselves, or they do draft themselves, but they plan out the whole first round. They go 1 to 32, and they say, okay, if we're here, they draft for themselves. If they are here, this is the best player on the board. This is the second best player on the board. This is the third best player on the board. There's no way those corners are getting down to 17, and because of that, they are not going to be prepared to draft a cornerback. I will say this about Jordan Addison. I do want to put this out there for Jordan Addison. If he slides to the second round for some crazy reason and he's sitting there at 32,
He does have that ACL injury. And he hurt his ACL. I'm pretty sure it was his ACL. This season.
Oh,
It was a significant injury that I think kept him out for most of the second half of the year.
Wow.
I believe it was knee. I don't want to. Now that you,
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it, but I don't pay attention to Jordan Addison like that, and especially not USC football. Could care less about USC football. But I think, maybe if he's there in the second, because at that point you're just like, all right, well, maybe he is the best player on the board, and maybe we do draft him just because he's the best player on the board. But at 17, not a chance. Not like, don't get excited about it. Don't talk about it. Not happening. All right, other way around. Give me some guys that you think aren't being talked about enough that should be.
Yeah, and I know this is not the big, you talked about it a little earlier, like the nose tackle is a big need along the defensive line, but I'm looking a little bit elsewhere. Defensive end, I think, is a big one. I was really impressed with these two guys at the Senior Bowl, Will McDonald and Keon White. They're great athletes. Love the guys with long arms, a lot of power. They're quick. Keon White was spending some time with Mike Tomlin down at the Senior Bowl. Those are two guys that I really like at defensive end. There are also a couple of receivers. One of them we saw at the Senior Bowl. The other one we didn't. Parker Washington. I know you wrote about him a little bit ago. That's a good slot option, and I think he'll be a value pick later in the later rounds. Same with Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. That was a guy at the Senior Bowl who was really, really good. Some special teams potential too. I really like him. And then I think they're also going to find a starting caliber linebacker. I think they're going to find a guy who's going to have to play significant snaps. Deion Henley is a guy that I really like. Demarion Overshone is maybe, I think he might go too high for the Steelers to take him, but Dorian Williams is also a good pick there. I like all those guys. I think they're going to make a surprising, they're going to draft one of those positions that isn't slam dunk obvious need.
Yeah.
And they're going to get a really good player out of it. I think all of those guys would be good fits for him.
Yeah, I could see all those happening. It was Derek that wrote about Parker Washington, and I watched a little bit of Penn State, so I knew who he was, but the more I read about him, the more I was like, this guy actually might be the perfect landing spot for the Steelers. They do like Penn State. They like to keep it local. Reed is another option. I was looking at the big board of wide receivers yesterday when I was going through it, and I was like, oh, I wonder if Reed is going to slide to the 7th, because they have a gap. Like, that's where things get tricky, is they have a 5th. They don't have a 5th or a 6th round pick. So they'd have to either move up, which they could do. They've done that in years past. They did it last year. They did the year before that. Or they just wait it out and get somebody low. That's what I struggled with. I think Reed and Parker could be like those 4th to 5th round guys that land there. I agree with Overshaw. I think that Overshone, what's his name?
Overshone. Yeah.
Overshone. I think he's going to go a bit higher than I have a hard time with this inside linebacker class, because I don't think they're that good. I think that they're developmental pieces, like good developmental pieces, but I don't think any of them are like starting quality right now. I mean, I think that the Steelers are going to look at that when he goes in like the 2nd round. They're going to be like, I don't know if I want to draft an inside linebacker in the 2nd round. But I could see both of those happening. I don't think I did not put an inside linebacker in my.
No, I don't think you did.
In my,
you had a defensive end, I think, in the 6th round or something.
Yeah, an edge rusher in the 7th, which I could see them drafting. Will McDonald is another name that I think Keon White's going to go real high, and I don't
Really?
think I do. I saw mocks where he's like a top 10 pick, and I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah,
I
I
didn't
don't
see
know.
anything like that.
I don't know why. Yeah, but like
Mhm.
I also haven't, like it's Kalijah Cansey's been like a top
Right.
10 pick. So like,
Mhm.
you don't know what to believe right now, but I have seen them. That's why I didn't draft him. Those two, Will McDonald and Keon White, were both my options for that second pick, that 32nd pick. But I just thought both of them would be gone. If they do slide, I could easily see this. The Steelers loved those guys at the Senior Bowl, both of them, especially White. White's a freak. He was on Derek talks about it all the time. I forget what the board is. Somebody's freak list where like they're the most physically capable human beings on the planet or something. So I could see the Steelers definitely targeting those two. But I think like if they don't sign a guy like Bud Dupree or a third edge rusher in free agency, you should 100% expect an edge rusher in those first 3 picks because they are done messing around with TJ Watt going down, and they're not going to start Quincy Roche. It's just not going to happen. They're not looking for it to happen. Jameer Jones was just a total waste of space last season. So was Malik Reed for when he came in here. Like they need a starting quality guy behind their 2 starters, and I think they'll go get one. So I agree with both of those. But like I said, we head down to Indianapolis right now, and things are going to get very real. We'll see how much things change. I mean, you have a good combine week and you move straight up the draft board. You have a bad combine week, you might not even get drafted. We've seen it. I mean, Paris Ford is the prime example in Pittsburgh. Yeah, shaking your head.
He was my I was so convinced watching him when he was playing in college. I was like, this is a star. This guy is Ed Reed reincarnated. He is going to make it happen.
And then he had the worst pro day in NFL history.
Yeah.
And what was he, a 7th round pick?
I don't think he got drafted.
He didn't get drafted. That's what I'm saying. You could be one of the greatest players in college football. You have a bad combine week. Things just get ruined for you. So very excited to get down there. Media is actually able to watch it this year for the first time ever. We'll be talking to everybody, scouts. Omar Khan talks tomorrow at 10 a.m. Players, the whole 9. So make sure to check all of that out. allsteelers.com. We will also be coming the podcast Wednesday as it usually drops from the NFL Combine. I don't know where we'll be recording yet, but we'll be sneaking our way in there with our laptops and our microphones doing it either way. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. And also anywhere you get your podcasts, like I just said. Make sure that you're following all of mine and Steven's work at allsteelers.com and Inside the Panthers for all of your combine talk this week. We'll be back on Wednesday. Peace.